Check 1, 2. All right.
It's a beautiful, nope, nope, not saying that. Can't say it. It's not a real beautiful day in the neighborhood. As a matter of fact, it's a horrible day in the neighborhood. Can't stay long, so, because as soon as we finished last night and during last night, I still have to finish a city budget and have a vote today. So, in between grieving, in between helping other people to grieve, in between meetings, still had to work on the city budget. I know there's people out there right now who say we want a delay in the city budget because of the massacre. The council cannot delay the city budget. The date is set by the charter. If we could have, we would have delayed it. The only way we could delay it is if the governor had declared a state of emergency. Other than that, we do not have, we can't. That was not declared. And so we're doing that, so I can only be on for a little while. But first of all, I want to acknowledge and I want to say at the top of the show, I know people have been paying attention to Buffalo across the world. That's going to go away soon. But I want to say to everyone who may not have heard my voice on this, and if you didn't, I apologize because I've said it over and over. The other day, a racist, white supremacist came into our city, and he, in cold blood, took the lives of innocent people. Now I know, and I'll get there. I'll get there because I know what I teach. I know what my Bible says. But I'm not sure if the Bible gives a timeline for forgiveness. I'm not sure. I might have missed that scripture. Because I believe that it's going to take time for forgiveness for some people. If I had to use an example of someone who forgave quickly, Reverend Gelsey, Bishop Gelsey, when his son was killed in his own house, I don't know if it was a day or two later, Gelsey was able to say he forgave him. I'll never forget that. So you need some examples to help you to get to that point, you know? I think Gelsey's son knew the person, and Gelsey knew them. When you don't know who this person is and you have no idea, but still it was his son, and he was able to say he forgave him. So I got a lot of respect for that. But I'm not there yet. Like I'm trying to be because it's my responsibility as a pastor to lead others into what I call healthy grieving. and then to lead others to forgiveness. But you got to pray for me. I got somebody coming in to do Bible study from out of town to help us all. Because you got to, I ain't there yet. I'm not there yet. So that I think everybody will remember last Saturday like we do 9/11.
Absolutely.
Right? For the rest of your life, you're going to remember where you were.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to remember what you were doing and how you felt. And just watching it.
Yeah. That became, I was telling people, that became like the coping mechanism on the scene Saturday. Like, oh, where were you? And you're just trying to figure out what to say. Because, you know, we were down there within an hour, and it was just like, what do you say while you're waiting for information and waiting to see who
you
was
run
inside?
out of stuff to say.
Yeah, yeah.
After a while, we were just standing there, and I guess I want to chronicle this moment for my children's children who will hear about this in history, but be able somewhere the digital footprint will be there to hear that day. As many of you know, is my Tops. I'm the council member of that Tops, and I live in that neighborhood, and we go to that Tops, and I often talk about that Tops in church and how I go in there. It's like community, so I ain't start saying that for the cameras. I've been saying that. So that day, my son had his first acting gig, if you will, acting recital. Teenager, found something he likes to do. His brother does sports. We always go to the sporting games, so this was important to go and see my son do his first debut acting. So it was, I think the thing started at 3. About 1:30, I wanted some hot dogs. It was nice out. I wanted to put hot dogs on the grill. So where am I going to get hot dogs? I'm going to get them at Tops. I got to the corner where I normally turn to go down to Tops, and I was like, do you really feel like going home, turning on the grill, starting the fire, making this? So I said, I'm going to ride out to Ted's. Rode out to Ted's, and I said, well, when I pick up my hot dogs, I'll come back, stop at Tops for something else I needed. But the line at Ted's, and people saw me at Ted's, this is the truth. The line at Ted's was so long, and usually I'll get impatient. I probably wouldn't have came back and went to Tops on Jefferson. You know, people act like I could have been in there. No, I'd have probably stopped at by the one on Ted's, but it was the fact that I just stayed in line because I was talking to another gentleman and a few people in line. And so I got home. My wife got ready to leave to go to the play. I said, I'll be there in a half an hour. She went on with my sons, and when I came out of the house, I noticed there was a lot of traffic coming down my street that we normally don't have. So I was like, what's going on? And I get a call from my wife. She said, hey, did anybody call you about Tops? And I'm like, no. She said, I was told that there was a shooting, and this is all we knew then, and a couple people got shot. So in my head, I'm like, okay. You know, we didn't know anybody was dead. No, not at all. So I proceeded to the play. Now, the mayor, I shouldn't say, the mayor had called me. I missed the call. I didn't see it. The phone was on the table. So someone was trying to alert me. I just missed the call. Go to the play, get in the play, had to cross over 4 people who weren't thrilled about me crossing over them to sit with my wife. Phone kept buzzing. My son still isn't on the stage. Then I start seeing messages like 2 dead. Buzz again, 3 dead. Buzz again. It's like went from 3 to 8 dead. My son still is not on that stage. I'm like, my leg is shaking. I'm literally sweating, and it's not hot in there.
Yep.
I'm sweat, and Monique is fanning me because you know how I get when I get jittery. My leg is shaking, sweat is coming down my face, and I'm like, I owe this kid that his papa is here for his play. Then when it got to 8 was when I leaned over to Monique and I was like, do you know when he's supposed to come on stage? And it was like 7 other acts. I was like, I gotta go. So now I gotta cross over these people in the dark. So I leaned over to a lady and I said, I am so sorry. I have to get back to the city. There's been a massacre. So now I'm trying to get out of the theater in the dark. I got a new phone. I don't know how to use the flashlight. I'm trying not to fall down the steps. And I get to the door and bust out crying. I'm about to cry now. Because it was that fulfilling my daddy role.
Right.
And fulfilling my community role. And at that point, it wasn't even so much as elected official as a neighbor.
Right.
And I had no idea who was dead, it didn't matter. So I left by the time I got to the scene, and by that time I had been in communication with the mayor, with the police commissioner, and you know, they're describing, and I'm driving, but I can't see that well because I'm crying for the deceased and I'm crying for my son. And this is why. Because this was the first thing that he's liked, and I wanted to be there. I wanted him to come on that stage.
Right.
So that he knew he had his papa's support. So get to the scene. I'm trying to process, you know, is this fake? Can I get back to my son? And the bodies were still on the ground.
Yep.
And you came, you met me there.
Yep.
So my emotions are everywhere. And it's known now, or I wouldn't say it without permission, but it's known. The former fire commissioner walks up, and we think he's just coming.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so calm.
He was.
Because he's like, hey, everybody's. And I went up, and he says, yeah, you know, my mom, that looks like her car over there. And he says, I think she said she was stopping by Tops. But he was calm, because, you know, not your mom, not your 80-something-year-old mom. Mm-mm. And his daughters were at work as dispatchers for fire, which means they were listening.
Yep.
And dispatching emergency vehicles, not knowing their grandmother was gone. This is the humanness of it that people who weren't there might not, or people not in Buffalo, or people who ain't black, people who don't identify. And then we went and did a press conference, and that's when that news agency, and I misspoke last night because what I said in church. When I was asked right after the news conference about this guy's brain development, I ain't say the bad word there. I said it at church. I said to them, his brain was developed enough to plan out the attack, and you can go look, it's online. It has gone viral. And I said a whole bunch of other stuff, but I've said it over and over. I ain't gonna say a bad word on this. I don't want to get cut off, but I'll say daggone. I don't give a daggone. They told me Pastor Charles McCarley, pastor on top, had a shirt made that said I don't give a daggone cuss word about something. D. Pridge he put. So they asked me that, like, dang, it's still bodies laid in the parking lot. And some of America trying to justify like he was a little kid. But nobody tries to justify when a black boy shoots somebody of whether his brain wasn't developed enough. I've been doing this 27 years.
They didn't ask that last night about the 3 boys in Milwaukee who shot up downtown, caused a big shootout. I think the numbers are ranging between 17 and 20. No one got on BET or any of these other things. Said, well, what about their mental capacity?
And we never do.
No.
The only thing I've ever said is I think that in our community, we do have a mental health crisis.
Yeah.
But I've never tried to use that as an excuse, not that I remember, for somebody killing. We just did a funeral just now.
Just
So you all imagine I'm doing city budget. I got to run for city hall. I came to bury a 20-year-old, left kids and parents, and getting ready to go back over to city hall. But I really wanted to come and spend some time with you. So Lee, and probably in about another 7 minutes, I got to really get back over to City Hall. I'm going to throw it back to you, and I'm just going to ask you to, for my last half hour, to play gospel that soothes. I hope you all can hear me over there. Please, for this half hour, no R&B, just gospel that soothes. So we, after having that crazy question asked to me, that's when we learned that one of the victims was Commissioner Whitfield's mother. And one person was getting ready to go to tell him, and I asked, can I go with you? Because I just talked to him, and I wanted to be there for him. And as we walked toward him, he knew.
Yep.
And probably the biggest hurt I ever seen in my life was her other daughter.
Yep.
This is real. Then
Yeah.
his daughters came.
Yeah, they got because they didn't want to tell him
Right.
and his family until they got his daughters off of dispatch.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then others, and then Sunday morning, so overwhelming to have the 3-year-old who it was his birthday and his dad was getting the cupcakes. And I think it was his aunt who was holding him. And she's, and they told us. And then to have the young lady in church who now is known all over the world because she called, according to her story, called 911. She's in the store. She works in the store. She's behind the glass. She's laying on the floor. She's asking them to send that somebody's shooting. And she says that the dispatcher was rude and that the dispatcher kept telling her she had to speak up, and she was like, I can't or else he's going to kill me. And instead of keeping her on the phone, the call is disconnected. That dispatcher has been put on leave, and an investigation is going on. And I promised her that that would happen. It happened even quicker than I thought it could, because I asked her to send me an email. She called me. We talked. By the time, you got to realize there were a lot of elected officials in that room on Sunday here. And by the time I could finish talking to her good, I think it's the county, county executive and all the county folks. That wasn't what they wanted to hear. They went to action. So I just want to say thank you to them. Thank you to them for the mental health counselors and so many others. And thank you to the heroes. Now, a lot of times we talk about the deceased as we should, but don't forget there were 3 others. And then there was one other that I learned that might not even be on that list who said he had the burn gun from the burn marks on his head. And I don't know everybody's name, but I want to acknowledge them because their trauma is real and their family's trauma is real. And here's what shook me up. They found over 800 pages of him planning this and talking about it online. I'm not talking about the manifesto. He was in a dark web room or something, and he was talking about the zip code, and like he put all this up. And he was considering in this area a barbershop on Delavan, tops, or I think it said one of 5 churches. That's the gravity of this thing.
Yep.
It's hard for me. I really need a theologian to help me with this, because does God tell us to forgive the devil? don't never remember.
Nope. Not that I could think of.
I don't. I don't know everything, but I just don't remember a scripture or Jesus saying, "Forgive the devil." Huh? Huh? Does he say forgive the devil? Maybe Liston Page when he comes. We're trying to get Liston. Liston wants to come for 2 Thursdays in a row. I think I'm going to ask him. He asked me the other day, what do you want me to deal with? And I said, just deal with what God lays on your heart. But maybe I got to ask him to help us with forgiveness or something. Because I don't know. Because I don't remember reading that I got to forgive the devil.
Yeah.
Because this man went to kill.
He talks about resisting, and he will flee. He talks about we have the power to tread on the head and all of that, but not anything that I've been taught or can remember says forgive him. And I go back to what you said earlier. Never said forgiveness has to be in 24 hours or that we have to turn the other cheek in 7 days or any of that. So
I'm working through that.
Yeah.
I'm working through that. As many people are. And so from that day on, it just has mushroomed. Today we were on A.R. Bernard's show that airs on Sunday and talking to the chief rabbi of the state of New York and Dr. A.R. Bernard about this tragedy. So I'm not really, I'm trying to think if I missed something. So big ups to everybody who's doing everything. I can't get to everything. I've been invited to so many things, and I'll be honest, because now when people say, how you doing?
Not good.
If I have a moment where I'm feeling okay, because the other day I came home, I'm tired of looking at the news. I can't. I just came home and watched a comedy. I needed to kind of detach myself for a moment from this tragedy. And healthcare professionals have advised, when it becomes overwhelming, stop. Like when you can't really watch news anymore, just stop. You don't have to. And it's okay when you have a moment that you can smile or a moment that you can laugh. Now, can I spell bad words? Oh, hell ain't a bad word. It's in the Bible and it's proper word. To hell with you out there who are making light of the loss of other people. To hell. I know I have no heaven and hell to put you in. It's just that, And I ain't about to get all into this because it ain't what is my business? I guess one of the assembly persons fired 3 people.
Yep.
Locally. It's in the Buffalo News. One of them a black man for insubordination, he says, because they were pressing him on his response to this massacre. You ought not have people around you who ain't going to advise you and try to help you. But if that made you mad enough to fire 3 people, man, we got some stuff going on locally.
Yeah. And, and I'll just say earlier in the week, well, since Sunday, you've talked about our white churches and white pastors. And I told you, I feel that way even towards my white friends.
Yeah.
And I've heard from about 2. And it's not so much I heard about it, this is a shame. One just keeps sending jokes, and I'm like, you haven't addressed what happened. One is legitimately like almost every day, like
not jokes about that.
No.
Because if you ain't tell him off, not cuss him out. If you didn't tell him off,
no, just like
just random jokes,
random social media jokes we would normally share, and I'm like,
it's not the time.
Like me and you go back 20 years, like you haven't addressed it, and I'm really. I'm really struggling. So it's almost like, so I've been in that, like, you know what? I'd rather just not talk to any of you.
Yeah.
Let me
And
process
that's
it.
a shame
Yeah.
because, like, the other day, a couple days ago, I came outside of my house, got in my car, and a white man who I didn't recognize in the neighborhood was walking down the street with a
Hmm.
backpack. And immediately I was like, oh, I ain't moving until you go past my house.
Right.
I would have never felt like that. But there are other people who have always felt like that about
Yep.
us if we walk through the neighborhood. Obviously, they killed one. We just went through a whole where the boy was running through the street.
Yep.
But we ain't killing nobody for walking through.
Yeah,
We
you can
might be
go
a
back.
little nervous now.
You can go back to Trayvon. You can go
Right.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to say to Buffalo, and Al Sharpton said it last night. Buffalo, we showed because nobody start looting in our own community. And I said that from day one.
From Sunday.
Like, do not tear up
Saturday.
our own community. That was so important. And then he says something else. Let's not start falling apart and pointing the finger at each other. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
For black people to be talking about that these black pastors or these black. If everybody did what they needed to do on their own way, and maybe you ain't see somebody, you don't know whether they were out. There were 100 vigils. You don't know if a pastor went to a vigil or
Right.
not, or whether they don't. This is my point. Don't get away from what we have at hand, and that is a white supremacist who came and murdered on purpose black people. And I'll just say this, and I'm going to leave. I believe one of the reasons we're seeing a rise in white supremacy is because we are not killing each other fast enough. If we would raise our murder rate to about 200, 300 every year, white supremacists ain't got to do nothing but go take our jobs and get our positions in colleges. That's all they care about. Do you understand that? They do not. It's biblical. It goes all the way back to Exodus, like I just talked in this funeral. It goes back to Exodus. You are getting too strong, black people.
Yep.
You are getting educations. If you look on Facebook, and it's a shame that people could barely celebrate their graduations. I spoke at EOC graduation, adult learners who got their certificates and got their, in different things and advancement in different places. If you all weren't doing that, white supremacists wouldn't care. This is about economics, baby. You better understand it. When you talk about racism, this is about dollars. This is because too many of you getting home loans in a city that's going through gentrification, that there are black people who own their own homes. This is the fact that there are black people who are beginning to be on boards of directors. I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm 57 years old. I've been in this community. I got a master's degree. You ain't calling me to be on nobody's advisory board anymore, because advisory boards don't have any power. You can advise the board of directors. They ain't got to listen to you. If we ain't got a seat at the big table, I'm too old to be at the kiddie table. You got too many black people opening up business. Look on Facebook right now. You see so many African Americans who are graduating and graduated from college this year. When we went over to UB, did you see how many doctors there were who were black?
Yep. Sure did.
PhDs? That means that we didn't kill them quick enough, because white supremacists hope that we kill each other at a fast enough rate that they don't have to come in and do the job.
Yep.
So to my black brothers and sisters out there, stop killing one another, because you doing what they hope you do so that they don't have to come in and do it. And then even if you're not killing with the gun, you're killing with the tongue.
Or the fingers.
And nobody's saying anything. You got to stand up. You might not agree with a black leader. You might not agree with their policies. You might not agree with their politics. You might not agree with their religious thought. But to try to crush somebody and annihilate them, you doing the job they're trying to do. And so what they know, just leave them in the same neighborhoods. Let there be jealousy among them, because the Bible says that the reason we have the fights and quarrels among us is based on jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
That you want what you don't have, and you don't have it because you don't know how to get it, because you don't go to God for it. It's in the book. At the end of the day, Buffalo, thank you for being a city that stood up, that feeding each other. I saw Andrew out there bringing his organ. I didn't get a chance to speak to him. Andrew Boyd takes his organ out to the street to play. Universal language, Andrew. Thank you. All of the peacekeepers. I hate to start calling out because I'm going to miss some people. All of the people who kept the peace. In Buffalo, they stood up, but it's not enough. We got to stay standing up. We got to stay remembering that we are not each other's enemy, that there are pockets of people all over these United States that want us to hate each other, kill each other, that want us to dog each other, that want us to annihilate each other so that they don't have to do it. You ain't getting paid to knock down your brother. You ain't getting paid to knock down your sister. This is about economics. And we could tear up our own communities if you want to. What does that do? Nobody's rushing in to rebuild a black community that tears itself apart.
Nope.
You're becoming too strong. Black people owning radio stations. Black people on AM and FM who can control what's on the air. Black people. Sheila Brown is not a white woman. Her investors, some of her investors were not white. So those of you who, this person got this money and this church got this money. So what? Why do you never complain about white folks having money? Why? It's called jealousy. But when Sheila Brown could come to a black church and say, help me finance a radio station, y'all would have had a fit if she had went to a white church. But if nobody has any money, how do the folks working over at the station, I'm just going to be frank, because I know there was an employee over there that had a lot to say about me recently. Don't forget, the station is on partly because of the money of the people who go to True Bethel. But that's what the enemy wants. Us fighting us, and I'm not going to do it, because that brother who had that, you my brother. If you ever want a conversation, we can talk. But at the end of the day, he went at me because I didn't want Bart Simpson with weed up. We lose focus so fast. I love all of you. I love each and every one of you. And we need each other. Let us not do the job that they signed up to do. And that was to kill us. And that was to take us out. I got to go finish your budget. Lee, or whoever's there. Is Shad over there? Whoever's playing. Shad knows the music. Oh, Lee, all right. Lee, you know the music to play. Thank you, Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home. Just taking care of these families, so at least I know one. And thank you to Hobson's, the Dr. Dry Cleaner, for never muting my voice, for never telling me what I should say or could not say, because it's because of you. Same way we helped, you help us. And that's how you build community. Till next week, peace.